The topic Corporate Governance and Business Ethics.
I request all the panelists to kindly take their seats on the dais. I would like to welcome Mr. C.K. Thakur, Mr. S.K. Gupta, Rajiv Bajaj sir, Ms. Meenu Gupta, Mr. Ankit Mathur and Ms. Simran Mathur.
We welcome all of our panelists.
Ratan Tata once said, "Apart from values and ethics that I have tried to live by, the legacy I would like to leave behind is a very simple one, that I have always stood up for what I consider to be the right thing, and I have tried to be as fair and equitable as I could be."
These ethics, which he talks about, are the moral principles that govern a person's behavior. They should be prominent in every aspect of society, in the economy, in people, and above all in politics. Values such as honesty, loyalty, work, and respect must be taught from the earliest ages and guide people throughout their personal and professional lives.
The basic job of a parent is not just to ensure the survival of its offspring, but also to provide the much needed guidance to thrive, help them evaluate potential paths in life, and choose the one that is right for them. Similarly, a panel discussion theme today, which is Corporate Governance and Business Ethics, is about the moral principles that govern the boards at the most elemental level, according to which boards should ensure that nothing illegal or unethical happens on their watch.
Now, I would like to request Honorable Director Sir Dr. C.S. Sharma to please come up and take his seat on the dais. Thank you, sir. Recent business scandals and corporate collapses have brought calls for better business ethics, more training in ethics, and further regulation. But ethics in business are intrinsically part of every business decision. They begin in the boardroom. Trust in business will not be rebuilt by more rules, more regulations, or corporate governance codes, but as directors create cultures that recognize and handle ethical risk.
But business ethics are not an optional exercise in corporate citizenship. They are fundamental to the governance and management of every organization. Decisions at every level in a company have ethical implications, strategically in the boardroom, managerially throughout the organization, and operationally in each of its activities. Ethics reflect behavior in business and behavior of the business.
The ethical issues in marketing, on the other hand, stem from conflicts and disagreements. Each party in a marketing transaction brings a set of expectations regarding how the business relationship will exist and how the transactions should be conducted. Some of the ethical issues in marketing are invasion of privacy and stereotyping, ethics in advertising and promotion, and deceptive marketing.
Through this panel discussion, we wish to discuss the various principles which guide a company's behavior. It begins in the boardroom and continues till the launch of the product in the market.
We would now like to welcome our esteemed panelists. First, we have with us Mr. C.K. Thakur. Mr. C.K. Thakur has an overall experience of 30 years. Currently, he is the President and CEO of Punj Law. He has done BTech, MBA, Advanced Diploma Management from Asian Institute of Manila, Philippines. He has credits from IPMA, International Project Management Association, B-Level Certified Profession. He has an experience of 22 years in NTPC. His last assignment was DGM in NTPC. During this period, he looked after many assignments such as project execution, project management, formulation, and tie-ups. He left NTPC and had been working in Lanco Infrastructure for 7.5 years. He was COO, Chief Operating Officer with Lanco Infrastructure, and was also responsible for complete operation of power projects. He then shifted to Punj Lloyd and is currently heading power verticals of Punj Lloyd power sector, solar, thermal transmission business. We are extremely honored to have you here with us, sir. Now, I would like to request our Director, sir, to please welcome Mr. C.K. Thakur with a floral welcome. Thank you, sir.
Next we have Dr. Sunil Kumar Gupta. He is a senior level professional with multifaceted experience in leadership positions at large public as well as private sector organizations. He is currently the Vice President of Spentex Industries Limited. He has also been the Director and Advisor with the Institute of Cost Accountants of India, PhD, Chamber of Commerce and Industry from 2010 to 2014. Also, he's been the head of internal audit, legal and group company secretary at Samtex Group from 2007 to 2010. I would request Mr. D.N. Rivedi sir to kindly facilitate sir with a floral welcome.
We welcome you, sir. Thank you, sir. I would now like to welcome Mr. Rajiv Bajaj. Mr. Rajiv Bajaj is presently the Associate Director Finance and Company Secretary. He is the Head of Information Technology, Human Resources and General Administration of Panasonic AVC Networks India Corporation Limited. He has been an eminent speaker at various universities and colleges like IIT Delhi, MIT Business School, IMT Ghaziabad and various other B schools. It is a pleasure to have you amongst us, sir. Now, I would like to request Ashok Begrial sir to felicitate sir with a floral welcome. Thank you, sir.
Next we have Dr. Meenu Gupta with us. She is the Deputy General Manager, Corporate Office, Power Finance Corporation Limited. She has 21 years of experience of conceptualization, visualization, collating inputs, designing and editing of house journal Urja Deepti. She also has 8 years of experience of working in Supreme Court of India and Power Finance Corporation Limited in legal areas. She has 25 years of experience in implementing official language policy of the Government of India. I request Dr. Awasthi to kindly come and facilitate ma'am.
We welcome you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Moving on. Next we have Mr. Ankit Mathur, Management Consultant, Financial Management at KPMG Global Services Private Limited. He has been associated with KPMG India since May 2010 in taxation, transfer pricing. He holds a postgraduate diploma in taxation from Institute of Management Technology, Ghaziabad, and an MBA Finance and International Business from Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute of Management and Research, New Delhi. I would now like to request Rajiv sir to facilitate sir with a floral welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us, sir. Thank you, sir.
Next on the dais is Ms. Simran Mathur. She did her graduation from University of Mumbai. She has an MBA from Finance from Bharatiya Vidyapeeth and she has an experience of 3 years, first in Wipro and then in KPMG. I request Ms. Sangeeta Malik ma'am to kindly come on stage and facilitate her with a floral welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
I would now request the session chair, Mr. C.K. Thakur, to take over from here and start with the panel discussion.
Before we do that, we would like to request the students to keenly listen to the panel discussion because we have a question and answer session after that. Following which, we have Mr. Ankit Mathur to present the summary of the session in the form of a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen and ladies, Dr. C.S. Sharma, my panelists and audiences. It's really my pleasure to be here today morning for discussion on the topic which is lately been very, very prominent in the industries. It is only, I think, sometime in the mid or late 90s when this topic, this subject, corporate governance, started getting a lot of attractions. Everybody talking about the governance. So in the inaugural brief notings by two students of your institutes, I have confidence that most of you know what is corporate governance. So I think most of you would be interested in knowing that what is the industry practices. So the panelists here, we have the veterans from the industries, and during the panel discussions, I'm sure that when you go back, you will understand that why organization fails, what is the importance of corporate governance, what should be the proper frameworks of corporate governance, right? What are the example organizations across the globe which have been continuously in the Fortune 500 list at the number 2 or 3, whether it is because of their only operational efficiency, the top line and bottom line performance, or also it is because of the top class corporate governance they have been maintaining to retain this position. So few examples of the corporate disasters, failures and success, also probably in the panel discussion we will discuss. So with this I will not take much time. I request my panelists, Mr. S.K. Gupta, Dr. Minu Gupta, Rajesh, and Simiran and Ankit to start the discussions. So this discussion would be mainly it would be a panel discussion. That means something. I'll request Mr. S.K. Gupta to initiate the discussions on the the corporate governance, followed by the other speakers to take lead and then come forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and good morning to you all, dignitaries on the dais, learned professionals, distinguished faculty and dear students. The topic today is corporate governance and business ethics, which is very, very topical and a burning topic for all of us to understand, and especially for you, the budding managers who are going to hit the corporate job and the corporate world in a few years from now. See, the world today is characterized by a very high degree of volatility, uncertainty, intense rivalry and competition, globalization, and most importantly, enhanced stakeholder expectations. The stakeholders of the businesses today, they are not only looking at profits or profitability, not only return by way of dividend, but actually they are looking for corporates to function in a way that it is a sustainable business over a long period of time, at the same time providing sustenance to the society, the environment, besides their economic performance. So in sum and short, the key drivers of the corporate sustainability today are two factors: corporate governance and business ethics. Corporate governance, in fact, includes business ethics within itself. In other words, we can say that business ethics is a subset of corporate governance. And since the conference had been on for 2 days, I mean it was there yesterday also, you would have at least come across the basic concepts of corporate governance and business ethics. My focus would be on sharing real-life practical experiences with you, where I have been working in leadership positions in various leading public and private sector organizations. See, the tone of corporate governance and business ethics is actually set by the top management, the board. Let me give an example here. On the TV, there is a very popular show known as Walk the Talk. The anchor there is Mr. Shekhar Gupta. What he does is, he gets the MDs and CEOs of different companies for interview, But the interview is not held within the studio because the name of the show is Walk the Talk. He actually takes them out in the garden, and while roaming around with a microphone in his hand, he conducts the interviews. On one of the episodes, he had Mr. Ratan Tata for the interview. It was a 45 minutes episode. Various questions were asked by the anchor and aptly replied by Mr. Tata. One of the questions he asked him was, Mr. Tata, your group has been in the market for the last more than 150 years. Reliance came only around the early 70s. But how is it that at least on some parameters of corporate performance, Reliance is number one and Tata the number two? When you have to compare two corporates on performance, there can be various parameters. You can look at asset base, you can look at net worth, you can look at profitability, you can look at turnover. So he said on some parameters, Tata the number one, but on some parameters, Reliance has beaten them. How it has been possible? Mr. Tata replied very coolly and subtly. He said, we do business according to our own good governance principles and ethical values. We're not bothered whether we are number one or number two. The message is loud and clear. Every company, in order to grow, has to do things, has to take certain actions. But the difference lies between the two companies. I'm not now identifying myself with either Tata or Reliance. That was only an example which I've given you. Company A would say, this work has to be done, and the next line they will say, howsoever it may be possible. There would be another company which will say, this work has to be done, but then they will say, this has to be according to ethical and good governance practices. That's where the difference lies between the two companies, so far as setting the tone from the top is concerned with regard to corporate governance and business ethics. I think I'll come back with more of my experiences. I would like other panelists to share their views further.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. I think I come from a hardcore manufacturing company. And when we actually try and execute corporate governance, of course, it comes from the top, we all know. The top management and the board and the governance tone is set by, of course, the organization, the culture. But sometimes even the front desk of yours is also very important. The way you conduct. We have seen in Delhi recently, even a taxi driver can bring the company down, can finish the company. So governance and culture and ethics, they go hand in hand. We all are working for the organizations, we are all in leadership positions. But when it comes to actually delivering and the hardcore ethical behavior, sometimes we falter. Sometimes even the boards are not, we call independence of the board is the epitome of corporate governance. If you look at the listing arrangements and if you try and go through the basic corporate governance practices, one of the key areas is that the board should be independent and there has to be independence in the board. And now even the Companies Act talks about 360-degree appraisal of the board members. They should not only appraise the employees, they have to appraise themselves also. And the biggest example was in news once again recently with Mr. Ramalinga Raju getting convicted for 7 years. But interestingly, I would like to share with you, I was sharing a dais with the Satyam HR head exactly 6 or 7 years back at Amity University. I can share the place also with you. And he was talking about their leadership program. And he shared that we have a culture of creating leaders. And we had 12,000 leaders who are leading various, parts of the organization. And all kind of high-end pep talk was there. But look what happened to Satyam. So, if the compromise on ethical behavior is done by a corporate, and this is not only in India, we have seen Enron, we have seen WorldCom, we have seen a huge consulting firm like Arthur Andersen. Now, I don't know what will happen to Price Waterhouse. I would like to hear KPMG's view on that. But saying is easy, but actually practically working with a conscious mind, with the ethical behavior is sometimes very tough. How many independent directors can claim that they are actually independent? These are the questions which I think we need to debate about. Of course, the expectation of the lawmaker, expectation of the corporate, expectation of the stakeholder is that whosoever is managing the organization, they are managing it with good governance practices, and they are trying to work on the basic ethical principles. But sometimes the compromises start happening, and to what extent that compromise should happen, that is also very important for us to discuss. So I will leave the floor with these kind of questions, and then maybe we can discuss it further.
Thank you, Rajiv. So broadly, you have touched upon the real requirement of the corporate governance and the practices being followed. And example of Satyam, where there has been disasters because of the poor corporate governance. And also you have talked about the conflicts and the compromises being made at the top levels, and which probably lead to the poor governance and the organization fails. Can I request Minu to come forward with some of the power finance corporations where you have some kind of this best practices?
Good morning, everybody. We are talking of top management, and like Mr. Rajiv has very rightly said that each and every employee of the company has a major role to play, and one driver even can take away the company. Like if we go back to our ancient India, we can talk of Chanakya and Raja the way they used to work. Chanakya is a very good example. He was a mantri, and what he used to do, he used to keep 2 diya. That time there was no light, so he used to work in diya or lamp. So whenever he is coming to his home, he used to keep 2 diya in his house. When he is working, one day one of his friends came and he saw that the 2 diyas are there. He did some work, and after that he lit it off and burned the other one. The friend said, "What are you doing? Why did you do so?" He said, "I have lit it off because I was doing the office work till that time. So I was using this diya. Now I have to do my own work, so I will not use this diya for my work." So this is also a very good example of corporate governance. Means corporate governance, ethics and values play their major role and integral role in each and every act of every person of the company. I give another example. There was a textile mill, and there was a policy in the company: if there is some defect in a cloth or material, they used to give it to their employees free of cost or in a cheaper rate. So all of a sudden, after some time, they found that the company mill is going in a loss. So they tried to find it out. They engaged some experts also. They couldn't find out any reason for the loss. And then they engaged some foreign experts also. They also couldn't find out any reason why the mill is going in loss. Then finally, one worker at a very low level, he approached the management. He said, "Sir, can you explain me the reason?" They were so much harassed by the reason. They said, "Okay, you come and tell us." So he said, "Sir, the reason of this loss is our policy. There is this policy what the people are doing, they are deliberately making a defective textile or material so that they can take it away at a cheaper rate. So it's not only the top management which is responsible for the corporate governance, but each and every employee at the lowest level is also responsible, and values and ethics play their major role with that also. And I also believe that values a person learns from the womb of her mother. Like we say in our culture, we give the example of Abhimanyu. He learned when he was in the womb of her mother. So if a child sees at his or her home that his father is coming with a bribe, he is telling lies, he has no values, and he is asking his children to tell the truth, be honest, that can never happen. So each and every person is also responsible for corporate governance, because tomorrow that child will grow, he will go and join the company, and come what way, whatever may be the policy, he will find out one or the other way to be dishonest or to be away from the corporate governance.
Thank you, Minu. So you have really, through some examples, you have given good light on the how the corporate governance and is mixed with the ethics and the values. So unless the proper business ethics and values are practiced, so probably the corporate governance may not be possible. And then you have also talked about the policy gaps. So if the policies are not clear, so there are chances that down below the things may not be implemented well, and so there could be gap. Thank you very much. Ankit, if you can, you are the consultant and you have a lot of the industry practices with you. So if you can come out with some examples of the good governance practices being followed by some of the top class organizations, I think it will be better to enlighten the audience. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So, yes, thank you, sir. We'll certainly take care of what the questions has been aroused so far, and what we are here for. So we will certainly try to justify the reasons why we all are here today. So the topic is corporate governance and to follow the business ethics in our organization. Very well said that this is not a new term to our countries. It's a very old part which has been running throughout the ancient time. As we say that there was a just to start with, there was a barter system wherein the rule was that if I have something and I desire to buy something from a person number 2, so I have 100 rupees, but I need a product worth the same. So my business ethics and my rule says that the product has to follow the same style, the same legacy of the product, which we can exchange in between. Similarly, in the current time, the corporate governance and the ethics of any organization says that whenever you are doing any activity in the organization, in the world, it should go ethical. We should follow a pattern, and it should be in a systematic way wherein we don't make any inferences which can impact the company's name. So recently we came across with one live example wherein the person was not culprit. However, the company suffered a big loss. A US-based company who wanted to run in India and to flourish with a good ethics and governance policy, they came in India. They make a bash in specifically in Delhi NCR area, going across different places, making a huge impact and drowning the other companies as a competition. What has happened? Just one person, because of the one person, the company's name went down. This is one thing that none of the companies can afford. Another example, I know one FMCG company which has a global presence. What they do? So since they produce a lot of products which we use in our daily routine. So usually what happens when it goes to near to the expiration date, they take out products and they take it back. Because the ethics says that you are not supposed to sell any product which goes beyond the expiration date. Now what they do? To follow best practice in the market and to maintain their name in the market, they try to sell those products internally to their employees. Now it gives a motivation to the employees and it gives a revenue generation to the company. How? So the products which we all use, and if I get the same, supposedly if I'm getting a soap for 10 rupees in the market, and I being employee of that company, if I get a product at 5 rupees, which is near to the expiration, I don't mind that buying the product. But if you sell it in the market and the product, it goes waste, or if it goes beyond it as a defaulter, the companies has a huge impact on the name. This is one thing which companies cannot afford. And the companies, it's generating its revenue, they are on their break even, but they are following their ethics. This is important. However, a lot of companies, they showcase the corporate governance from an upper end. They follow the good governance, they build good governance, but yes, it's a fact that it flows from the top management. However, as Vikas rightly said, it is not just the top management, it is from the grassroots level also, how we take it forward. Because one mistake if you make from the down level also, the management cannot do anything. Similarly happened with Satyam. So even if something has happened wrong from the top level, the whole company suffered. Each employee who was working as into the service, who were running their bread and butter, they suffered. The company got shut down. Litigations went up. It's been years now. Finally, the verdict is coming up that the people from PwC, because they were the consultants, and the company's management, they might fall into the same imprisonment for 7 years. My question is, why company followed that? I belong to a consulting background. I'm from KPMG. So we are the people who never takes the responsibility. I know that sounds funny, but this is a fact. We have a simple rule. Whatever data we are getting from the company's management, which has been duly approved by the management, we are relying on the same numbers. Our partners, they justify the number of what we've given to us, and we issue the annual report. Of course, keeping the responsibilities of our organizations. However, we keep every possibility to keep ourselves safe. So the answer to your question is that even if the PwC is facing a lot of troubles, but they have several ways to keep themselves away from these issues. Because, as I said, we are consultants and we are expert in our lines to keep ourselves safe. But yes, our motive is to keep every company as per their ethics. Now the companies, similarly, we have different examples to come across. But the list is not just the way, if I put 4 or 5 examples here. The understand on the one need is that if we are the citizens of a country, it is our primary responsibility to maintain that system, to be a part of that pride where we are working, where we are. So be it any institute that we are sitting now, be it any corporate area, or be it any NGO, or be it anywhere else. Our responsibility to follow the same path with a systematic approach, with a discipline in our mind wherein the company can run its operations and it can do some justice and some responsibility towards the society as well. We'll certainly take it up into the next slide of presentation, and in the meanwhile, I would certainly like to keep the session away with the other panels. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankit. Hello. Thank you, Ankit. So it's really, you have tried to really knit well that in the organizations, everybody is responsible for maintaining the ethical behaviors and promoting the cause of corporate governance well. That was the main I understood. Now, gentlemen, with these panel discussions we have gone through, we have seen that this is the why governance. what is corporate governance? So we are talking about the top line improvements, we are talking about the bottom line improvements, we are talking about the operational efficiencies. And then, as Mr. S.K. Gupta has already spoken, that then the company's basic motto is to meet or exceed the stakeholders' requirements. So when you have to see that there is, in a company where there is a social environments, there is environmental environments, there is stakeholder requirements. So how the company can really operate in a manner that the stakeholders' requirement and shareholders' value is enhanced, the stakeholders' requirement is met or exceeded. So here is the questions that the listed or unlisted company, when they are supposed to meet these kind of standards, then really what is the benchmark practices, how the corporates should govern in a manner that they should be known as the responsible citizens. Like when he says, Mr. Gupta has told that the Tata chose to become ethical company even at compromising the bottom line. Maybe number 1, number 2, number 3, then Border. But then he wants to be a admired company. Today if you say the Tata product, then there is the admiration. So you say that the Tata product. So the issue is that when you say that the corporate governance is basically what we have understood through the panel discussion is the process basically, is a process, the mechanism through which we ensure that the company functions well. So the question is that if the power is given to somebody to manage the company operation, so how he delegates the power, on whose behalf, at what cost? These are the major issues. How do you really control or exercise your autonomy, your delegations? So the question is that when before 90s, few companies were then also very, very ethical and really corporate governance was in the best possible manner, but most of them definitely not. Because they were there to make money. So they were mostly focused on the bottom lines. And at whatever cost may be, they were trying to maximize their personal wealth. Now the question is, when you have to manage all those things, that means you need to talk about the good leadership, you need to talk about the transparent behaviors, you need to talk about the complete transparency in the business operations. So then, what is the framework? So there is a requirement that there should be a good framework for the corporate governance. And therefore, the Company Acts, 1956, the Company Act was promulgated. Then there is a Security Act, then there is your SEBI Act, and then again there is, I think after SEBI also, some the dematerialization of shares and other things. So there is another act through which, so now that means there is a framework, the initiative taken by the government also, that the stakeholders or the shareholders' interests are protected. Now, the issue is that whether these frameworks are sufficient, or the frameworks alone, the regulatory or the legislation frameworks can control the environment, or there is a responsibility on, as you have discussed in the panel, that on each and every body in the organizations, in the top, maybe middle, maybe bottoms, everybody has to be conscious about. So basically, when you talk about the corporate governance, mainly it focuses around the functioning of the board of directors, the functioning of the top executive bodies, then we talk about the transparent operations. So ultimately, if you look at the values of the organizations who have created really in the market and they are today known as the best organization, how really they have grown up. And they maintain these positions consistently. We talk about the GE. If you look at the governance structures of the GE today, the GE, there are more than 21 board members. And the board members is, from the different, they are from the ethnic groups, they are from the different genders, and 50% of the board members are the outsider board directors. So the position of GE today, when they talk about that they are the best in the world, so this is because of the best corporate governance practices they are being followed. Every quarter they report on the functioning of the board of directors, the board of governors, and they have, now see, we have the frameworks today, and the framework says that they define the composition of the board of a company, that the 50% should be the outside directors, The question is the outside directors, whether they are well paid, they are manipulated by the permanent directors of the company, or the independent directors have their values or ethics to that extent that they will at any cost will not compromise their own values in the interest of the organizations. So these are the major issues which have been being really, they felt and understood in the recent past. So day by days, the more, the stringent norms are being promulgated to ensure that the board of a company functions independently in the interest of the stakeholders or the shareholders' value enhancements. So now, in the second round of panel discussions, keeping all those things in mind, we'll try to discuss maybe one case where the audience can have some more insight. Say the case of Satyam, because you also take the reference of Satyam, and Rajiv also referred the case of Satyam. Why Satyam failed? What was the real reasons? So generally, it was basically the manipulation of the bank balances. They have increased the cash flow in the banks. They say that they are a rich company, whereas the liabilities they have reduced. And how they did it? There was without quoting the name, of course, there was a top class consultant engaged in the auditing of the firms. So, and still, how the auditors were managed by the board of directors. I will request Mr. Rajiv, in fact, you can start, you know better, Satyam, so that you can understand the governance, ethics, and how this company has really failed. That will give you a little more insight, in fact.
Sure. I think I already shared with you, I happened to talk to the company secretary of Satyam after this episode happened. And he shared with me that he also came to know from the letter or a communication he received from stock exchange that the chairman, Mr. Ramalinga Raju, has sent a fax to the stock exchanges admitting certain things. And that was, the background is that he did it because he was getting engrossed in some US federal law situation, and he chose better to admit in India rather than getting entangled there, because India has a treaty. But why he did it? No? He was fudging with the bank information, he was fudging with the number of personnel, some fudging of salaries was also being done. At the end of the day, it is all greed. Greed to amass wealth, greed to make more money, greed to become more successful. Bigger, I don't want to say because he was big enough. He already achieved, Satyam was rated as one of the excellent companies. And the HR head I'm sharing with you was so proud of 11,000 leaders they have in the organization. Maybe he was also not aware what's happening on the top. But at the end of the day, each one of us have a role to play. Because it comes to a bigger question. No? I think we can go a little bit beyond Satyam, if you permit me. Recently we had in Delhi a very honest chief minister. And we know what happened after that. So the question is, what is your own definition of ethics? What is your own definition of honesty? What is your own definition of conducting in a very subtle way? Whatever is assigned to you, are you honestly doing it or not? Boards are also consisting of human beings. Very recently an example came that a very renowned builder was penalized by the Competition Commission because they were indulging into practices which were monopolistic practices. And we all know, we book a house, and initially the delivery period is 24 months, 36 months, it keeps on stretching, and the person has nothing to say. So regulations are there, but people find ways to flout the regulations also. And I work for a multinational company. Sometimes, I don't want to say it's the culture in my organization, but sometimes in organizations the culture is that the person who can tell how to break the rules is considered more valuable than the person who actually tells the company that this is the ethical behavior. Now, that is where we have to change the mindset of the entire system. And saying there's a study which said, I think India is 143rd or something like on the ethics index. So you can imagine how far we have to go. These practices, no doubt, are corporate governance. In US, I'm told that now they prefer to appoint a legal guy as a managing director rather than a sales guy or a marketing guy, because they feel that even if you sell less, you can still survive. But if you fall on the ethics index, you cannot, you may perish. So similar kind of a discipline has to come, and that discipline is required for the entire organization, not for the top, not for even the middle. And the organizations need to build up a proper system. In my organization, for example, we started a drive where, of course, whistleblower mechanism has been established, and we are taking an undertaking from not only our own employees, but from the suppliers also, that look, you will not give bribe to any of our employees, and it is a written undertaking we are taking. So these kind of governance practices one has to establish at all levels, so that much more discipline can come in the organization. But Satyam, of course, is a bad story. We should try and forget, and we should encourage corporate India to behave in a more ethical manner. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajiv. So I think we are at the end of the session, so we have to invite a few questions also from the audience. But before inviting the questions from the audience, so let me quickly conclude that the Satyam, the case where you have seen today is the best example of the unethical behaviors, and that has led to the bad governance. That means the greed word, the greed itself is an unethical word, and the greed has led to the company to collapse. So these are not the only examples. There are so many examples of the corporate disasters. The Reebok India is one. Ranvaxi case, if you all can recall, you can go through the website, it is available. How the income tax scandals was there, the tax scandals. So many, the kingfishers also you will find somewhere it is the bad governance practices, many cases. So going through all those case studies, we can understand that what should have been the ethical behavior and what should have been the best governance practices. So when you say about the code of conduct, now the trend is that most of the companies have their own code of conduct. That's what you have touched upon, that how the employees should behave in a manner in the company during the office hours, beyond the office hours. Tata code of conduct is known to be one of the robust code of conducts. Every employee on the day of joining is given the code of conduct. They are given training for 3-4 days on the code of conduct itself. All business is interlinked with some kind of serial number on the code of conduct. So that's the kind of standard they are following. And then stretching more on the frame of the framework of the governance mechanism, where because of all the legislative requirements, the voluntary disclosure of the wealth, then the periodic auditings, internal audits, external audits, internal systems of the governance, external requirements. So all these things are the frameworks through which they are now the corporate governance are gradually becoming sensible, and they are trying to behave as a good corporate citizens. I think a lot of studies materials we will find, and through the case study you can understand. So I stop here. So now may I invite the few questions from the audience. If I don't know how much time is there, if time permits, maybe 4, 5, 6. I'll prefer if the question is addressed to the individual, to the panelist, in the name of panelist, or if not, then probably if the general, then we will see that who all can. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Check. Now we'd like to invite questions from the audience to the panelists. Any questions, please feel free to ask.
Hello, sir. My question is a bit lengthy, and it's like that. Being from a developing country, like India is a developing country, and we rank beyond 140th country in any of the index you take in the business part. So my question is, can we really afford to have these practices of corporate governance in any of the level, in any management, especially for in India as being a third world country, you can say, because we have a lot of political ambitions. We have to keep pace up with the world leaders, world bodies, world industries, and for that you need to bribe. You know that you need to bribe. You need to settle down the things. You need to have a nexus with everybody. So can we really afford to have? Can you really afford to have being a third world country? If you want to be on the chart, on the top, can you really afford to have that?
So if I correctly, can I respond to this question? Yeah. If I correctly understand your question, so you say that when you are talking about the growth, right? If the India has to progress and catch up the developed nation, so should you only concentrate on the top line or the bottom line, and say that you can keep on growing, and do not, really bother about the top class corporate governance, which may hinder the business. That's what you are trying. So basically you are talking about the balance between the growth and the corporate behaviors. Gentlemen, let me tell you very frankly that in absolutely essentials, India can afford, in my opinion, unless you have a very transparent way of doing these things in a particularly large democracy like ours, you cannot have this sustained growth. If you talk about the sustainability, it has to be. Otherwise, again, so many cases of the personal wealth collection would be there. The examples of so many things like this would be there. So we have to follow the corporate.
For that, sir, we need to achieve. For that, we need a psychological well-being of those persons who are working for these corporates, basically, for each and every level of that hierarchy. I think so. So do we have that? First question is, do we have that right now? And second question, do we afford to correct those mentalities?
So we have to create that kind of environments. We have to, because if we want to be sustainable, yes, otherwise you have seen many organizations failing. So the choice is yours, whether if you want to start and fail, or if you want to really grow in a sustainable manner.
Because we have systems in each and every department, in public sector or private sector. We have the system, we have the process, but nobody is following that. That is my question. Can we afford to have that?
No, it's not that nobody is following. The organizations which are following, they are sustainable. The organizations which are not following, they are failing. Like there are many examples. Initially, to grow as fast as possible, there are many. Infrastructure company in the last 5-6 years, you see, many organizations, they have all Hyderabad-based company have grown so fast. Now, today, if you see most of them, I do not know whether they are able to sustain also. They are able to survive also. You will find that the names are also not appearing in the list. So they have, in the interest of the infrastructure development, they have grown, but they are not able to sustain.
The last one. As I believe that we are not only practicing, or we are not concentrating on the practices, we are just concentrating on the minimize the bad effects or the consequences of the actions we have already done. So that has become the parameters of the corporate governance in India. As I do believe, you may not believe, but as I do believe, we are just minimizing the consequences, trying to manage the, minimize the consequences of what we have done. Like for the industries, for the factories, for the environment regulations, carbon credit, everything. We can do that. It is my belief. Do you agree with that?
Okay, so then see, ultimately you have to function in the legal frameworks. You have to function into statutory frameworks. So that's the framework already decided. We have no choice.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We have no choice. We have a framework only to minimize the consequences, not a proactive approach being installed in your organization.
So anyway, see again, this is what today we are discussing. So that is something which is to be practiced by individuals, by the organizations, by the level of hierarchies. So
for that practice, sir, we need a proactive system, not a reactive system.
Okay, I think this is.
I think
go on.
this
Next
mindset
question.
change is required.
Yeah.
See, what has happened is that over the years we are surrounded by certain ethical behaviors, no, which we have started taking as normal behavior.
Yeah.
But as you said that we need to bribe for growing, I don't think.
I'm not saying we need to bribe, but we have to bribe.
But we have to bribe or need to bribe is the same thing, you know. You are justifying bribe. I don't think that is appropriate. No doubt, growth is important. I give you an example. One of our competitor was selling a product, giving a false declaration, and you know it is very good for eyes or something. I come from a television industry. Our people also prepared a report that this is happening in India because you know we are a different market, you know, and we sent it to Japan and we said that this is a small thing which you need to add, and then we can create a whole story out of it and we can sell more, right? Pat came the one line reply, we don't want to cheat people. So the culture of the organization also is very important. You can sustain for a long term if you are honest to your customer. If you are trying to cheat somebody, once you can, 2 times you can, then continuously you cannot, right?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, please.
I would like to add one thing. I give an example. We issued some shares, our company issued some shares and gave it to the employees. Our employees bought some shares and many of our employees got letter from the income tax to give all the account where they got the money and how they bought the shares. I also got the letter. And so you said we need to bribe or have to bribe. I'm replying on that. So some of our employees, what did they do? You have to work for 4 years. 3 years back, where did you get the money? Where did you spend the money? All those calculations have to be given. So they didn't want to do that. Who remembers 4 years back where I spent the money? So what did they do? They gave 5,000 rupees to the person who was dealing with the case, and the cases were closed. And when I went there, I said no. I want to fight the case because I haven't got any black money. It is all my earned money. My salary money had gone from my salary. Maybe that I may not be able to tell at that time for 4 years back where did I spend the money, and even ask the person, can you tell me on this date where you are asking me where did you spend the money? Can you tell me on that day where did you spend the money? He had no reply, but I fought the case, and finally, although it was wrong, my chartered accountant told me finally that you paid the money wrong. I didn't pay the bribe, but he gave me some penalty that you haven't paid money for tax for this and that. I paid 15,000 to the income tax department, but I didn't pay bribe. So why do we need to bribe? You have to introspect for that. I give another example. I was traveling by a taxi and the taxi driver said that I have to renew my license, or some commercial drivers had to obtain something. So he said that now it has become very difficult. I have to go myself. I had to waste my whole day. And previously it was okay. There were some touts were there and you have to give some money and the things will come to you. So it depends on the individuals also. In government companies, they are citizen charters. They have told, if somebody is asking bribe, you tell us. Like he also said, they are taking undertakings. But how many citizens do that? They themselves go and give the money and bribe the employees and say, you do this work and we want results. They are also having pressures from their company. You have to bring the results. So it's a vicious circle kind of the thing. So we have to introspect ourselves also. The person may ask the bribe, but why we are bribing the person? We have to look into that also.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I would like to ask one question to the chair or to the panelist. That good governance we are talking about from last 2 days, and there are a lot of practices which we are following in India, like good governance based on good practices, as what we say. And good practices comes with accountability. If we are accountable to such certain things, certain parameters which is being set for us, and accountability is being checked by interventions. I would like to quote one example, a very live example, and everybody falls prey of this particular thing, the situation in India. That's admission, the toddlers admission in various schools. If you are not bribing them, if you are not going to be a part of that bribe, you are out of the race. So if are some kind of we are accountable. I mean, I am not going to bribe. If I'm not going to bribe, I'm not in the list. Is any intervention which is being checked by the government to control this kind of practices? And there are many more practices which is going on. It was one example. I mean, there are a lot of things that intervention, if I say in the form of that in public sector, there's a SEBI is there. But in public sector, what kind of intervention the government is going to check upon? We are having a lot of RTIs. RTIs are also pending. We are complaining about some authority, and authority is not being taken proper measures or check. So what kind of solution do you have to such kind of accountability and the interventions? I would like to throw some light on some concrete kind of measures which is being taken by or suggested by the panelist or the chair to such kind of corporate governance, how to maintain a good governance.
See, these days, questions probably all of us are suffering from, but you are talking about something, what is the reply of these questions, you know? So who is responsible? Whether school is responsible or the parents are responsible?
I think every individual is responsible.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling. So when you say that some schools are, every school city is happening and all of us know, but then everybody is, you know, taking his own position that somehow his son or daughter should get admitted. So the question is that the school is to be controlled or individual to be controlled?
Yeah, I think some strong measures to be taken to control the school regulatories so that there should not be any kind of bribing directly or indirectly. I mean, some schools are asking direct bribing. I mean, you pay some kind of funds to development fund or something like that. And if we decline, if we say that we will not do it, so you please, I mean, you just wait for some.
So what I understand is that today why it is happening that everybody is rushing towards DPS Arkepuram, DPS Basankuj, DPSO, because if you look at.
No, sir, it's not with DPS, it's with other school as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling. So what you say that unless we are developing countries and the facilities available in our country is still far less than the facilities required. So there is rush everywhere, and therefore there are a lot of, the mushroom growths of private institutions are coming up.